Welcome back. I'm Phil. That's Sam.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Today we are coming to more laser weaponry after the last video that we did.
The Dark Star video.
About the SR-72 Dark Star. And we were blown away because they talked about the use of laser weaponry in that video.
And that is apparently what this is going to discuss.
Yes. And so this one, I think it's going to get into the USS Gerald R. Ford, I believe, is the carrier that we're discussing in this one, but I'm not entirely sure. So
this apparently shocked, in all capitals, the world.
Yeah, because that carrier that is the most recent carrier that's been built, and it was built in a manner that allowed them to use energy capacity beyond what they were using currently, so they could have advancements in technology and utilize that on that carrier. I believe that's what's going to happen in this video, but forgive me if I'm wrong about that, because this is a first time reaction and we haven't watched the video yet. But anyways, the point is that we were blown away with the use of lasers, because we didn't even think, I mean, I think we had an idea that maybe it was possible.
Not to that capacity, though.
It sounded so science fiction that
I was like, we're in Star Wars.
Yeah, but then they talked about that in the Dark Star, and you guys even were saying, and we agreed with the idea that if this is what they're telling us is in existence now,
what's coming or what else is out there,
and it's been already in place for decades probably. So
yeah,
interested to see what they're going to say with this one. Anyways, if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button for us. That helps this video reach more people and helps our channel grow, which has been what's happened the past 2 years, more than we thought was possible. So we appreciate that support.
Awesome.
All right, let's check out more laser warfare.
The $13.3 billion USS Gerald R. Ford is the largest and most expensive warship ever to sail.
Woo.
It boasts a sprawling 5-acre flight deck and new technologies aimed at making it, and carriers like it, the world's most powerful. Well into 2050 and beyond.
Huge.
The vessel holds 4 squadrons of fighters on board and a bevy of support and tactical aircraft. More than 60 planes in all, though it can accommodate as many as 90. The USS Ford
planes.
stands more than 9 stories above the waterline and weighs 97,000 tons.
Holy.
That's insane.
That's 32,000 tons heavier than the largest battleships of World War II.
Wow.
But big doesn't mean slow. Powered by a pair of advanced A-1B nuclear reactors, the ship has nearly 3 times the power of America's existing supercarriers. About 300 megawatts of electrical power in all, according to the Navy.
That's insane.
Seeing it on the water is like watching a New York City block cruise past at 34 miles per hour.
Damn.
But new anti-ship missiles from China, some capable of maneuvering at hypersonic speeds above Mach 5, threaten to render the USS Ford and the Navy's entire Pacific Fleet obsolete. A sobering report from the Congressional Research Service, updated in August 2022, points to concerns about the survivability of Navy surface ships in potential combat situations against adversaries, such as China, that are armed with large numbers of UAVs and anti-ship missiles, including advanced models. China has aggressively scaled the size of its naval fleet in the past decade and has developed several anti-ship weapons, including highly maneuverable hypersonic missiles capable of reaching Mach 10.
What?
Damn.
China isn't hiding the fact that those weapons are intended to repel American ships. The USS Ford and ships like it have a battery of anti-missile defenses, but none are capable of protecting it in a prolonged battle against China's latest weapons.
This doesn't sound good.
To maintain dominance in the Pacific, to just keep its ships afloat, the Navy is going all in on a new technology that has remained out of reach for decades.
Lasers.
The laser. The benefits are tantalizing. Powered by a large fuel source, the Ford's hulking nuclear reactors fit the bill. Lasers fire at the speed of light, negating the speed of hypersonic weapons. They can reload quickly to fend off swarms of drones, and they don't require stores of ammunition, giving ships nearly unlimited firing opportunities.
Damn.
In 2021, the Biden administration formed a Pentagon task force to assess the threat posed by China's rapid naval expansion. 1 year later, Based on the task force's findings, the Department of Defense declared China as America's most consequential strategic competitor. China now has a fleet of more than 770 Naval Coast Guard and other military vessels. That's more than twice the size of America's fleet.
That's crazy.
And it's concentrated almost entirely in the Pacific, whereas the U.S. fleet is dispersed between the Atlantic and Pacific regions. China's strength is also bolstered by an arsenal of advanced anti-ship weapons, which it can launch from ground bases, warships, and aircraft. The most potent are its long-range missiles like the DF-21D and DF-26. But the most fearsome is the DF-ZF, a hypersonic missile that can reportedly reach speeds of Mach 10 and attack from more than 1,500 miles away.
Wow.
China's hypersonic weapons aren't the only threats. Carrier commanders have long understood their vulnerability to batteries of anti-ship cruise missiles. When fired in high numbers, the weapons can overwhelm a ship's defenses. Swarms of relatively cheap, long-range suicide drones could cripple a carrier group just as easily. Replace airplanes.
It's so crazy because, a big part of this is the intel that you gather. Like they said, the task force that went out to gather the information about the Chinese naval capabilities. And, you can only do your best. I'm sure they have great intel in the U.S. in particular, right? But you can only do your best to gather that information, then make an assessment on where they potentially could be. And with a new development of technology and weapon systems, you might miss some of that forecast, right? So you've got to probably think to yourself, well, this is where they could be, but let's expect that they're way ahead of that. So we can prepare for the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
And then when you develop your own initiatives of weaponry, then you got to be thinking, okay, how do we get to this point? So that's why we have this constant evolution of weaponry technology, because you're always trying to stay ahead of your, they said China is the most logical enemy source that they're going to find. So you got to try to stay ahead of China. So everybody it's like a revolving door of development, right?
Yeah, it's crazy too, because they said that they've doubled their Navy size in the last 10 years, right? And you have to think okay, well, why is that where they're placing all of their efforts,
Why is that? Sorry, what?
I said it makes you think why is that where they're placing all of their efforts.
You're saying why is China developing their naval force?
Yeah.
So, well, I think they mentioned there in the Pacific, right? And it makes me think they have a lot of islands that they've deemed that are theirs, right? But, Taiwan obviously is a big one that's claimed its independence. And it's one that's still been a sticky situation. They still run drills around Taiwan all the time. I think personally, it's just my opinion that it's a matter of if. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when are they going to try to tackle Taiwan. And we're getting into this period now with, so much going on in the Middle East. Obviously, we know what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. There's so many conflicts going on around the world. The timing might be percolating for China to
They're
decide
everybody else is distracted,
Right.
so it's our time to strike.
And as you alluded to, they've been building their Navy up for a while now. So, they're probably remaining patient, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully it's just, this continued evolution of development rather than needing to actually use the weaponry. But anyways, seems like we're going to get into some of the laser defense here.
Could cripple a carrier group just as easily. Replace airplanes for drones and high-speed missiles, and the Navy's predicament becomes clear. Its largest carriers and most heavily armed destroyers aren't equipped to defend against throngs of invaders descending from the air. Today, the USS Gerald R sails with what's called a carrier strike group, an armada of 10 or more cruisers, destroyers, and frigates, and sometimes a submarine or two. At least 2 of those vessels specialize in air defense, usually Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. These ships provide the first layer of protection against enemy attacks using powerful onboard radars to detect targets more than 200 miles away. The ships are armed with surface-to-air missiles and the Navy's Phalanx Sea-Whiz close-in weapon system, which operates a radar-controlled 20mm 6-barrel Gatling cannons that fire 4,500 rounds per minute. All told,
insane.
a carrier strike group has enough hardware to intercept dozens of inbound missiles from as far away as 200 miles. but it becomes defenseless as soon as the ships run out of interceptors to fire,
Munitions.
which must be stored and then restocked after the battle. Some munitions can be replenished at sea, while missiles must be resupplied back at port. The Pentagon calls this a depth of magazine problem, something enemies can exploit with swarming attacks. The Pentagon believes that powerful lasers are the best defense against swarming drones. Unlike blasters in Star Wars, laser beams don't explode when they hit a target. Instead, they deliver intense heat. At lower power output, lasers can confuse the optical sensors on a drone. Increase the power, and a laser will burn a hole through it. Essentially, lasers turn energy into ammo. Powered by nuclear reactors, like those on the USS Ford, they can potentially fire thousands or even tens of thousands of times at incoming munitions. And because laser beams travel at the speed of light, lasers can track and target unpredictable weapons like China's hypersonic DF-ZF better than conventional missiles. Gunners won't have to lead a target and anticipate its location the way they do currently. The Pentagon likes their low cost too. The Congressional Research Service estimates that firing a high-powered laser will cost somewhere between $1 and $10.
Wow.
Just a fraction of the $1 million to $10 million that defensive missiles cost. Using million-dollar missiles to fight off swarms of relatively cheap enemy drones, or cruise missiles, is what those analysts call a negative cost exchange ratio. In 2014, the Navy installed the first laser on a ship for sea trials. Fitted forward on the deck of the amphib transport ship, the USS Ponce, the 33-kilowatt ANSEC-3 laser weapon system, LAWS, has a short, round firing tube painted white. Two smaller tubes for sensors rest on the shoulders. To an untrained eye, it looked like an amateur astronomer's telescope, but even this early, low-power version delivered striking firepower. A second, stronger laser entered trials in 2019. Then, in August 2022, the Navy installed its first permanent laser on a destroyer, the Arleigh Burke-class Preble. Developed by Lockheed Martin, the weapon has a 60-kilowatt power output that integrates with the ship's advanced Aegis radar and weapons control system. The Navy calls it Helios, or high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance system. Later versions could be even more powerful. Lockheed Martin says the weapon could eventually scale to 150 kilowatts.
Wow.
But even at that strength, it will be most useful against drones and small surface ships. To stop a barrage of cruise missiles or a hypersonic weapon barreling toward the USS Ford at Mach 5 or faster, the Navy needs something much more powerful. To thwart cruise missiles, the Navy estimates that it needs at least a 300-kilowatt laser. In addition to the size and speed of those missiles, their nose cones are made out of such materials as pyrolytic graphite or pyroceram ceramics designed to withstand the high heat inherent to supersonic flight, which can top 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Lasers will have to fire with.
That's an interesting point, because I think a lot of the supersonic missiles, they literally go up into space and then have to come down into the atmosphere, right? And you're obviously going to have extreme weather conditions.
Yeah, so they're like built to last through that.
Right. And so, these high heat lasers that they're talking about might not be as effective. So I was wondering, I don't know if we're going to go in this direction at all. It's like, are we going to get into like shields? Like this literally feels like we're talking about Star Wars and Star Trek throughout this thing. Like even that, I don't know if you heard me, but even the visual of that white laser, it looks like something that would be from the Stormtroopers in Star Wars, right? But in Star Trek, they have the shields, right? They have the shields that go up that, the lasers can't penetrate the shields. Like what are we're literally living in Star Trek. It's insane.
I feel like one day we'll probably get there.
Like, I feel like that's where we're going to trend towards. It's like, in order to prevent the lasers from getting through to the actual ship, they're going to have a little laser bubble that surrounds and protects you, and it only pops up at certain times whenever the laser's coming.
One day we're going to be going back and forth between Earth and Mars with Elon and protecting ourselves with laser bubbles.
Well, that's another thing I was even thinking about, because obviously we have the new administration coming in now, and the Department of Governmental Efficiency that's come about, right? And so when we talked about the munitions, right, that's a great way to reduce government spending on the military industrial complex. 100 times, 1,000 times, it's going to be crazy how much you could save money wise just from using lasers, which would be great. I mean, we don't need to spend so much on the bombs and everything else that we've been using, right?
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see, because I mean, like, obviously so far all of the imagery on this has been more of like mock-ups of them showing how the lasers are used. I'd be really interested to see a video of them like actually testing one of these things and seeing what the damage that it does.
I think there's a couple out there, but I don't know if we're going to get any of that in this video, but maybe you guys can recommend some other ones we should check out.
Ceramics designed to withstand the high heat inherent to supersonic flight, which can top 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's wild.
Lasers will have to fire with enough intensity to rapidly burn through those heat-resistant substances. They also need enough power to overcome the effect of atmospheric turbulence on the laser. Finally, they require quick identification of the precise target point on an inbound missile traveling at 1 mile per second,
which is
to
wild.
take it out.
Hypersonic.
That weapon appears to be on the way. The Navy plans to begin testing a 300 kilowatt weapon as early as next year and calls the experimental weapon Hellcat for High Energy Laser Counter ASCM program. A 2020 photo taken of a wallboard behind Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael Gilden appears to show that the Hellcat test bed will be based on the Navy's existing ANSEC-4 optical dazzler interdictor system, which is already being fielded on some destroyers. If successful, the platform will be the Navy's first laser capable of shooting down incoming anti-ship cruise missiles. Even Hellcat won't be enough to stop hypersonic missiles flying at speeds up to Mach 10. Those weapons are manufactured to withstand temperatures of 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter. The Pentagon believes it may take a 1 megawatt laser, more than 3 times the power of Hellcat, to stop them. But megawatt-class lasers may not be too far off either. The Navy awarded a contract to Northrop Grumman to develop such a laser. And in July 2022, the company completed a preliminary design of a high-energy laser that combines several laser beams into one powerful ray. For the Pentagon, which has billions invested in aircraft carriers, that technology can't arrive soon enough. Given the rapid emergence of China's anti-ship weapons, warships like the USS Ford are more vulnerable than they have been in 80 years.
Wow.
The fate of the world's most powerful navy could be decided by a single, well-aimed hypersonic shot. But no matter how fast or powerful anti-ship missiles become, the Navy hopes its futuristic lasers can burn them out of the sky for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. What do you think of the powerful lasers on the new Ford-class aircraft carriers? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to Military World to get our latest videos straight to your notifications.
Military World.
I mean, I guess the thing also to consider is, like, obviously the cost of using a laser is much lower, but the cost of building them is probably like insane, especially because it's all trial and error at this point too.
That's research costs, right? Research and development costs that are going to be the large budgetary confinements that we're going to encounter. But I was thinking about it, and we had mentioned on other videos that the technology that starts to come about is going to be so influential, right? So like we know that the US military has run things for so long because they've been so far ahead of everybody else. And don't worry, that's not a laser or a bomb. If you can hear that.
Sounds like an airplane is taking off outside of our window.
That's not what it is, don't worry. But I was just saying that the development of new weapon systems, as we just talked about, could really be a game changer. We said this before, right? That they've been leading the way because they have, more ships or more aircraft or better submarines or whatever. But that's all relying on current technology. So we see lasers as an example, how they could put the whole carrier system at risk and nullify it completely if they come out with a new technology that is able to do so. And I was thinking about it in terms of the atomic bomb, right? So in World War II, the atomic bomb essentially, I mean, the war was generally starting to end as it was, but it stopped Japan in its tracks, basically, right? Because they used the bomb, and then everybody was like, oh, geez, I didn't know that this was possible, that you could have a weapon of this magnitude. And it kind of got the ball rolling for the US leading the world the rest of the way because they had this weapons technology that nobody else had. So it feels like the lasers are continuing down that path of weapons technology that could, try to set the landscape. But I'm starting to wonder if defense capabilities is way more important at this level, because you can get more powerful weapons. But if they become useless because you have a defense technology that's so fantastic, it doesn't matter what your enemy does because they can't penetrate your defense systems, then it nullifies the offense that they have, right?
Yeah.
Because your defense is so much better.
Your offense is only as good as your defense, as they say, right? Like, because it doesn't matter what offense you have. If somebody else has a good offense and you can't defend yourself, then you're never even going to have the opportunity to use that offense.
Exactly. So we've never had the technology, the capability to defend against an attack like we're starting to gather now, right? So you see that in the Israeli dome, right? That's an example of their defense system that's so valuable. So for me, I mean, I was making light of the fact that if you have a shield, right, that you're
laser shield,
what the possibilities with that might be. But really, it makes the most sense to try to invest in that technology, I feel like, because if nobody can penetrate that shield with the weapons that they have, then you're golden. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do. We'll just wait until you
pop up your bubble over the country.
Yeah, we'll just wait until you're done with your attack, and then, whenever you're vulnerable, we'll attack you. We'll just wait, right? So we need to develop that.
Start making shields.
That's more important than the laser weapons. It's the laser defenses that's more important. I guess they were talking about that to some degree, that the lasers that they would shoot against the incoming missiles are what they're targeting.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's kind of an individual basis. If you could just have a broad defense mechanism, that would work then.
Just your bubble, so it'll just hit it and bounce off into the water.
Basically, yeah. Something that we don't have, I guess, at this point. But that was cool. I enjoyed that video. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was cool too. It's definitely interesting to learn more about this stuff.
All right, guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed it with us. Let us know if there's anything else with a recommendation that you want us to check out in the comment section down below. Other than that, have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching.